Okay. Welcome to another episode, and this time we've got a special guest. We are going to be talking about menstrual magic with Jan Ockendon, and I'm excited for this talk. Do not switch off because this is something that needs to be spoken about more, which I'm sure Jan will say. So before we do
Absolutely.
get started, Jan, would you like to introduce everybody to who you are and actually why we're talking about this topic today?
Yeah. So I'm Jan Ockendon. I am a psychotherapist and a coach. And I help women to guide their way through both the menstrual cycles, perimenopause, and then postmenopause as well, and bring out their dark feminine side. But working with menstrual cycles is really important because I think if we get that right, the rest of it kind of flows. Pardon the pun.
So for those that don't know, what is the dark feminine side?
So your dark feminine side is the side of you that you will hide, probably, or most women will hide. It's the side of you that is hidden generally because we get told that we're too much, we're too loud, we're too flirty. I got told that all the time when I was a kid, too flirty. That that women should be nurturing and nourishing and sweet and ladylike, whatever the heck that is. I have no idea what ladylike is, but that kind of, quiet and
Yeah.
nurturing, calm and sort of, whereas the dark feminine is very playful and quite sensual and powerful, and quite vocal,
Yeah.
angry sometimes, but angry in a way that she knows how to use it. That kind of, sort of anchored anger, if you like.
Yeah. I guess
That's
that
quite
I think I
powerful.
see that in myself, and I think my dark feminine's going out at the moment, more through passion and
Yeah,
speaking up. And I
that's
think
right.
that's
Very passionate, very passionate. And if you
yeah,
can imagine that when you link that together, so when you get the two together, the dark and the light feminine side, it's really powerful.
absolutely. I love that. So menstrual magic. I'm going to struggle with that word today. Like Jan said, she covers kind of all of it, and you've supported with things around it as well, haven't you? Because a lot of menopausal or hormonal women suffer with stress, anxiety, depression, and sometimes we don't realise it's happening to us, but then we don't realise why it's happening to us. What was it that made you? I mean, I already know this, but for our listeners and our watchers, what was it that made you step into this niche? Because as a friend of Jan's, I've seen her evolve over the last few years, and we've been in masterminds together. And she started as, I guess, this person that hid her dark feminine, and it's starting to come out, and it's amazing to see. But what made you transition into this niche in particular for your business?
So the more I read about it and the more I heard about it, because I'd heard other people talking about menstrual cycles and also the kind of feminine cycle, so the cycle of women's life cycle, which goes from the kind of preteen, pubescent stage all the way through to sort of, what they call the crone, which I don't necessarily use because crone has quite a negative connotation in our society. But looking at all those, I could see myself go through them all and realize that actually a lot of the way I was, that kind of quite anxious, held back, stuffed up, I suppose, person probably came from not understanding my cycle fully. And also I had a lot of problems with my I didn't necessarily have problems with menstrual cycle when I first started, although I was one of the first in my class, so I was bullied a bit about that. Or I was had fun poked out of me about that.
Something so natural as well. It's
Yeah,
part of the human for women's anatomy. That's
my boobs and all sorts because I've got massive boobs. I can't hide that. Just saying it because they come in the room before I do.
I love
but,
that.
but so I used to get. I mean, inflatable tits was one of one of the names I used to get called. Um, but yeah, so loads of that all through the years. But I also had when my first child was born, my doctor suggested, because I'd had problems with kind of a little bit of my mood. Well, no, I did definitely have postnatal depression, but I also had some problems with my menstrual cycle settling down. And they decided that they wanted to put me on the pill, and I was a bit against it. And actually now I would say, there's other ways to manage your menstrual cycle than going on the pill. And I found that because the pill's a synthetic hormone, it just didn't work for me. And I tried HRT during the perimenopause as well, at the menopause, and that upset my system completely, to the point where I just thought, do you know what, nuts to that, I'm gonna go it alone. But I also ended up, after my third child was born, again I had postnatal depression, but I also had massive mood swings, like really severe mood swings, banging headaches, boobs like, I mean, I've already said my boobs are massive, so you can imagine boobs like rocks, literally. So I couldn't lift my arms up like that above my head at all. Taking my bra off at night, taking my t-shirt off at night was a nightmare. And it turned out that it was premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is something that a lot of women don't know about. And the thing that brought it home to me was I had a client who was in healthcare herself, in an area where you would expect somebody to know a little bit about hormones, really. And they didn't have a clue either. And it turned out they had it. And that pushed me forward, and thought, well, do you know what? If somebody who is working in an area where hormones are quite important doesn't know about it, then who else doesn't know about it? And actually, maybe we should. And if we harness the energy that we have during our menstrual cycle, it makes the whole life easier.
It does. It becomes our superpower, doesn't it? The cycle
it does. And even if you don't work in your own business and you can't use it fully, you can't kind of step into it fully and work fully around that, there are things that you can do even if you're employed to be able to make life easier for you.
This is what I've just been thinking about as you've been speaking, because when I had my son, I started getting headaches, and having this conversation with my family, my sister-in-law, and I've got a headache again. It was kind of just accepted. Well, your hormones change after you've had a child. It's just normal. That's just what happens. But actually, sometimes I think we need to recognise when it's not normal, and when we need to do something about it, and how we can discover our body ourselves more, so that we can make positive changes. And at the time of recording this, I am a couple of weeks away from being 30. So I'm not at that stage yet where I have to worry about the menopause, but I think I should worry about it. Not worry, I should think about it and be aware of it, because I think we have this conditioning in us that, we worry about that period coming, or we worry about it not coming because we could be pregnant and it's unplanned, or we've always got this worry about the bleeding, the boobs, the hormones, the hair. It affects so much, our thin hair, and all sorts of different things. We worry about all those things, and then we get to a certain age and we worry about the menopause. I've seen my mum going through it. I've seen other family members going through it, and it's made me, actually speaking to you and being friends with you, make me think, I need to prepare myself for this. And actually, you talking about these things and more people bringing awareness of it these days. I've had conversations with other friends, like me and Jan have got a mutual friend, Fiona. We've been in the car and we've sat and talked about something like this that before we wouldn't have spoken about. So why do you think it's important that we do speak up about it, especially with other women and men? We need to educate men as well, boys, men, don't we?
Yeah, we definitely do. And I think for you, I mean, I'm you know my view on this, Danny. I'm a proper feminist when it comes to all this, because I stepped into my witchiness year or so ago, and it's always been there, obviously, but I denied it for a long time, and I've denied that because we're told that it's not good, it's it's bad, and I think that's what happens with periods as well, that we're taught that you don't talk about it, it's a taboo subject. it's
dirty. It's not.
it's dirty. Well, and we use the words things like, period pads or period pants are not so bad because I think they use the words period pants are used. But the products that we buy in the supermarket, they're always badged as hygiene products, which
Yeah.
to some extent they are. But I think the language sometimes makes us think that, well, it has to be, if we have to use hygiene products, then it's dirty. It's a
Yeah.
dirty little secret. And I can remember it's not that long ago, the adverts on the television. There were no adverts on the television when I was little, when I was younger. So when I was buying sanitary towels, you see, sanitary is another one. Why are they
Yeah.
called sanitary towels? Because that makes it feel like having a period is unsanitary, and it isn't.
Yeah.
It's just normal. And there's a bit of a movement at the moment to sort of free bleed, and
Oh,
yeah, to maybe for women to take some time to just go and sit somewhere that they can free bleed and not have any products there.
wow.
Um,
That'd be so good for your body as well. I mean, I can't imagine doing it. But I guess we'd have to take ourselves out of the busy day-to-day situation to go allow that to happen and flow. And I bet you'd find it's not as bad when you take yourself out of the day-to-day situation.
no, and or to go outside into nature and just sit on the
Yeah.
floor and bleed back into nature.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what I was saying now.
About the
So,
movements of free bleed.
yeah, so yeah, because we're kind of taught that it's unsanitary, that it's dirty, that there's so many people that I talk to that even things like having sex, that women won't have, and a lot of men actually won't touch a woman when she's having her period. Why? They're no different. I mean, the fact is that a lot of women probably wouldn't want it because that's the last thing you want to think about, because
But interesting enough, what makes me laugh about it is that's when we are hormonally giving off those pheromones and more attractive to men, even though we don't feel it.
well, often if one yeah, partly, but also your hormones are really low at that particular moment in time, so that they're kind of throwing you back into yourself, so they're encouraging you to just rest and sit back into yourself. So actually a lot of women wouldn't want to know at that time anyway, but then there are women who feel super sexy at that time as well.
Yeah, it just depends on you, and that's the important thing, isn't it? Knowing yourself. You'd be proud of me. I've started tracking recently, and I've not kept up with it, but I have started. I need probably a paper tracker where I can fit more room because my digital notebook is just not working.
Well, that's all that thought.
Yeah, so like I've made a start because I want to recognize when my energy's higher, lower. I think I have some kind of awareness anyway, but I really, really want to know myself more so that I know when to eat. Because like change my diet slightly, consume a couple more calories. I might have certain time where it's I want to do exercise, and sometimes I just won't, or retreat and have some time for myself, which sometimes I do feel, and I guess it is because it's at that stage in my cycle where life can be overwhelming. And I think that from my experience in like from high school and as a teenager, when you have your first period and your friends are all getting theirs, there's such a it's like there's a story to just keep on going. But why should we if we want to rest? If we want to
Exactly.
settle?
Yeah, our society is not set up for women's hormones at all. We live in a
No.
24-hour society, and that suits men's hormones. So men have the same sort of hormones, but the pattern is very different. Whereas women's is on we talk about it as being a 28, 29-day cycle, but most average women, it's not necessarily. I think anywhere from about 27 to 33 or something is considered normal,
Yeah.
I believe. But we talk about 28 to 29 because that's why we talk about the moon cycles following, because the moon cycle is around that time too. But our hormones are very different, so ours ebb and flow throughout the whole cycle.
Yeah.
Whereas men's are kind of relatively quick reaction or acting. So theirs their cycle's very, very rapid, if you like.
Yeah.
So our society suits men a lot better because they don't have that kind of drop period that we do.
Yeah, I recently heard something that made me realise how it works. Like the men are like the sun; it rises and falls every day.
exactly.
Which is what they do.
We're like the moon.
Testosterone rises and falls. But whereas women, we do that, but we're like the moon, where the phases each day change. And I was like, and just by that simple thought, it helped me see so much better how we actually work as women.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's very difficult because we are told it, because it's a very masculine energy-led society, we get into that and we're told that that feminine energy is, we're not suited to work. And traditionally, even it's very recent really that a lot of jobs have allowed women to stay in the job when they're married, when they get married. So teaching, nursing, you couldn't work when you were married. Before, and women were not, there was a lot of things that women were not allowed to do, and I think that's kind of held us back in a lot of ways, particularly talking about periods and menstruation and our cycles, and anything to do with the feminine, the female body as well. Actually, it was always whispered when I was used to wonder, why are you whispering about that? Why are you whispering about vagina? Because people would say it behind the hand, like, as if it was, we've all got one, just say it. And there's so many different words that we use, isn't there, for the female vagina? It's just ridiculous.
Well, I've always used the proper words with my kids because I think it's so important that we do use the actual term. And I think I've got a different opinion and attitude towards like the body to most people. Like my sister at the moment's breastfeeding, and I'm like, if anyone's got an issue with it, so what? A boob's a boob. We all have them. Men have nipples too. We all have them. People just need to get over it and let her just live it. And I am so proud of her for doing it. And I know she'll probably listen back to this and it'll make her smile. And hopefully she'll listen back when maybe her breastfeeding journey's ended and it'll take her right back. But if someone's just starting out with getting to know their cycle, and I think that a lot of the time people hear talks like this and they have questions. Some of the common questions are, I don't have a period, so how do I track? I'm on contraceptives, so how do I track? I'm hitting the menopause, so how do I track? And there's all these like questions that come up from circles I've sat in with you, with other friends that have talked about this. So what would you say to those women who are just wanting to get started on understanding themselves and their cycle?
So I would say the first thing to do is to think about, to forget what everybody else's cycle is and just track yours. So if you're on the contraceptive pill, if you have a what do they call it, a withdrawal bleed, if you have one of them, then I would kind of track that. So the first day of your menstrual cycle, anybody's menstrual cycle, is the day you start your period. So you always start from that day. If you don't have periods, use the new moon. So find out when the new moon is and start from there. Just because most women will bleed on the new moon. There will be women who bleed on the full moon, but it's not, it's not a sort of, it's not the average, let's put it that way. But always start on the new moon if you don't have periods, and track absolutely everything. There's so many things that are affected by hormones that you could probably track absolutely everything. So with your period, I would say start with things like your flow. So is it heavy? Is it light? What pains are you having? What's your energy like? What's your appetite like? What's your sleep like? What's your mood like? Are you snappy, irritable? Are you an utter queen bitch?
A scale of 1 to 10, how many times did you snap at the husband or the kids?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. But the length of your period as well. And obviously the date, you need to say what the date is. Usually by day 3, you're starting to get a bit better. It's starting to feel a bit better anyway. But you'll know that when you track. So yeah, always start on the first day of your period or the new moon, and then just continue it through. And every day, just track on it. You know, the most regular, the most usual things that I hear are things like your energy levels, who you want to be with, or if you don't want to be with anybody, even, because sometimes women won't want to be with anybody. What your mood's like, what your appetite's like, what your actual likes and dislikes are, even down to smell. I hadn't twigged this, but until I read something, I read a book called Code Red by Lisa Lister, and she says in there she that's what she does. She's a menstrual cycle mentor, and she actually said that you sense the smell changes. So you'll find that for most of the month you'll wear one perfume, and then you'll get to a particular time of the month and you'll go, ew, that smells disgusting. I'm not wearing that today. And you'll have to put something else on. And I hadn't twigged that I actually do that. It just hadn't occurred to me that actually it's hormones.
Have you ever had a perfume where it smells beautiful on someone else, but then you put it on yourself? You're like, oh, because there's one that my mother-in-law wears, smells beautiful on her, but on me, it's awful, and it is to do with hormones as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I say, like, I do apologise if we're picking up some external sounds, because throughout this whole session, I can hear next door, I've had my child walk in, I've had my husband put things in the bin while we've been on. So I'm praying that it's not picked up any sound, but it's like we're still doing their day-to-day things while we're here talking menstrual cycles.
Well, and it is part of life, isn't it? So that's a good thing. We're lucky we haven't had a cat jump up.
I know, yeah, it usually happens, doesn't it? I'm surprised it's not been the dogs, actually. I thought it was the dogs at first with me, and it wasn't. You've actually got a cycle tracker, haven't you? So we will link that in the show notes so people can access that, because that'll be really good for helping people to get started, won't it?
It will, yeah. It's quite a basic one, but yeah, there's lots of sort of information in there.
Yeah.
I'm actually tweaking it to go on KDP to put it out as a proper sort of journal as well at some point.
Yeah, when you said that to me the other day, I was like, I want one, please. Like, I to get one. Like, I need it because, like, my sister tracking is just not worth it at all. So overall, what would be your top advice for women who want to get to know themselves a bit better, especially when it comes to their hormones and dealing with these cycles in life, whether it's a woman listening who's just got her first period, or is dealing with periods that are not necessarily nice for us to deal with, or dealing with contraceptives, or dealing with perimenopause and then menopause, all the things that women go through. What would be your overall advice?
My biggest thing is that you know you best. You know what's happening to you better than anybody else does. And if you are tracking, or if you're not, you will get to know yourself much, much better. And actually, my biggest advice is definitely track, and write it down. Even if it's if it's in an app, if it's on paper, it doesn't matter. But you've got that, you know yourself anyway. You'll intuitively know if something's not quite right. And if you then, because you've got that feeling, you need to go and seek help from somebody. If you've already got things written down, if you've been writing down when things have been okay for you, and then come to a point where things are not okay for you, you can show them that. GPs are scientists, basically. Most doctors are kind of quite scientific in their kind of thinking and processing, and they don't have very long in an appointment anyway. So if you can show them evidence, that makes their job much easier, as well as your own, as well as making it easier for you. So yeah, I would say definitely record it somewhere.
So I've got a question now that you're probably not going to like, but I ask all my guests. What is your top tip for being organised within your business?
For me, a game changer, I suppose, was using Google Calendar. Now, I can't say that I would stick to it, but Danny knows I've got a complete butterfly brain and I get distracted really easily. But Google Calendars help me stay slightly on track because it sends me reminders to my phone what I'm supposed to be doing when.
Yeah.
And it also means that it's freed up space in my brain because I'm not remembering what I'm supposed to do that day.
It's brilliant, and I love I swear by Google Calendar. It's brilliant. Schedule everything in, and the bonus of it being able to connect to my calendar system, so I can put my availability and people can book in, which is nice and easy. I'm all about for working smarter and saving time, which that definitely helps. So final thought, where can we go and find you, Jan, if we want to consume your content and learn more and experience more of what you offer? Where can we go and find you?
So I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I've got a group on Facebook called I'm just my brain has just gone completely the way of the wild woman, and it's called the way of the wild woman because bringing all these things together, you're stepping into your wild woman. That's the woman that knows herself really, really well and sort of is in tune with all her cycles.
Yeah, I love that.
That's why it's called that. Yeah, so Facebook and Instagram, and the way of the wild woman is my group. But it's just my name on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, just search Jan Ockendon and you'll
Ockendon.
find her. But we'll put links in for you in the show notes. And I just need to say this. I've been dying to say this since you said about stepping into being a witch. It's not often you get a witch and a queen in the same room. Thank you so much for coming and speaking on this topic today, Jan. It's such a powerful one. I have a feeling that we will have Jan on again to dive deeper into other subjects around this. So watch this space. Thank you so much. And yeah, go away and track, as Jan says. Bye for now.
Bye.